One thing you can say about life is it is not a success-only journey. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. One of the best tennis players in the world apparently has a lot to learn about unraveling during the French Open finals. Now, I play tennis pretty much every day, and I have a lot of experience at losing. And when you practice it a lot, I guess you get good at it. Some people need to learn to lose a little better. Here's the real story behind Aryna Sabalenka's breakdown. Let's look at the headlines first. Aryna Sabalenka slammed for rude behavior after French Open final. This is so disrespectful. Bitter loser. Fans furious at Aryna Sabalenka. Aryna Sabalenka mocked for French Open outburst. This isn't just about losing a match. Come on, everybody loses. It's about how you handle it when you do lose. It's about losing respect for the game, for your opponent, and for yourself. It's going to happen. The question is, how are you going to handle it when it happens? So what did happen? Well, Sabalenka is the #1 ranked women's tennis player, and she was off to a great start in the French Open finals. Now, this is a Grand Slam tournament. It's one of the big four. It's played on clay in Paris, and she was up to a 4-1 lead in the first set against American Coco Gauff. Now, she was favored to win. And understand, Sabalenka is known as a great front runner. You get her out front, you give her a lead like that at 4-1, she is tough to beat. If you get her in a tight match or she's behind, everybody knows that she doesn't handle that pressure as well, but she's a great front runner. And she was front running, and then she fell apart. Or did she? And I say or did she because players do what their opponent tends to let them do. Now, she hung on and won the first set, but barely. But then she lost the next two sets, 6-2, 6-4, which means a pretty big blowout for the #1 player in the world. And she expected to win. There's no doubt about it. Now, I said, you do what the other player lets you do. If you make a lot of unforced errors, are they really unforced, or was that opponent really putting pressure on you? She clearly grew frustrated during the match, and she started making a lot of loud comments. She started waving her racket around. She yelled at her coach whenever she lost a point. The announcer said she almost hit a ball boy when she slammed a tennis ball. Fans started noticing. They started commenting on the internet. Quote, Sabalenka needs to focus on reducing errors rather than unnecessarily screaming here and there. Quote, is there any chance Sabalenka will get disqualified for this continuous yelling? Quote, never seen a worse bitter loser. Now, my experience has been if things start going wrong, players often start looking for an excuse to lose. And once they start looking for an excuse to lose, it's that they have decided they're losing. They take on a negative mindset and they start looking for somewhere to place the blame. And they aren't as efficient, they aren't focused, they get down on themselves, and they're not playing their best, and it starts unraveling. At the end of the match, Sabalenka gave Gauff a hug, but then she started spiraling down again. She launched straight into public self-blame. She cried her way through her runner-up speech. Here are some of the comments. It's just a joke. It was honestly the worst tennis I've played in months. Now, you can think she's just being self-critical, but think about it. What an insult. That's the worst I've played in months. Translation, you couldn't have beat me if I wasn't playing terrible. I played bad. You didn't play well. I played bad. Then she says, I didn't really handle myself quite well mentally. This one hurts so much. Like losing to you? This hurts really bad. She blamed the win, criticized Gauff's shots. And then the worst part? Instead of praising Gauff, she said if Gauff played Iga Swiatek, who Sabalenka beat in the semis, Gauff wouldn't have won. Now, come on. That's just poor sportsmanship. Now, I understand. Nobody likes losing. When you're #1 in the world and you expect to win, you're really down on yourself at that point. They stick a microphone in your face. But listen, she's made $34 million so far. She's won $10 million in prize money this year. You're paid to hold it together. That's your job. After the loss, Sabalenka said she was going to fly to Mykonos to reset. Her exact words: tequila, gummy bears, and swimming. I just need a couple of days to completely forget about this crazy world. Okay, maybe you should have done that before the press conference. She smiled and circled back to the match over and over. Here's why she lost. She doesn't do well when it's tight. She made 70 unforced errors. When the pressure was on, when it was tight, she lapsed mentally. She didn't execute well when it was tight. If it got to deuce, it got to be an ad against her, she didn't do well. Now, you can say, well, it was all on her, but let me tell you, I can't say enough. You do what your opponent lets you do. They're hitting deep balls. They're putting pressure on you. They're making you hit from where you don't want to hit. They're putting it to your weak side. They're playing to your weaknesses. And then you're dividing your attention between panic and the match. You start making errors that you shouldn't be making. It wasn't just a bad day. This was a big match, and big players make big plays at big times, and she just didn't come in big. A great athlete needs to be mentally tough, not just physically well adapted. They need to be tough when it's time to be tough. This is arguably one of the most emotionally demanding sports because you're out there by yourself. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. It's just you. There's very little time to regroup. You got 30 seconds between serves, 90 seconds to make your changeover. Unless you take a medical timeout or a bathroom break, it's pretty much on. You're there. Your coach can be sitting there coaching you now, which I'm not sure is a help because you have somebody to blame and you're arguing instead of listening. They start letting coaches sit courtside. Not sure that's a good idea, but they do. The camera's on, there's just nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and that next point's coming in 30 seconds. Now, listen, she's not the only one to ever do this. You know, McEnroe used to throw his racket. He was famous for his "you cannot be serious" tantrums, yelling at umpires. Naomi Osaka withdrew from the French Open just 4 years ago, citing concerns for her mental health. Serena Williams, arguably the best tennis player on the women's side of all time. She had outbursts in 2009 and 2018 at the U.S. Open Finals. Andre Agassi, in his memoir, admits he hated the game for years and used crystal meth to escape the pressure. Sometimes athletes can get to be prima donnas, but sometimes, look, the pressure's high, the scrutiny is high, and it can get really, really tough. And you can show bad behavior. Does that define Sabalenka? No, it doesn't define her. But I tell you what, it's going to be tough to step back out on that court the next time. She plans to play one tournament before Wimbledon. People will be watching. People will give her some grief. Maybe that will toughen her up. Maybe they will decide you need to focus on your mental game. What does that mean to all of us in everyday life? Everybody feels pressure. You can say you don't. You can say you're not a choker. You can say it doesn't get to you. Everybody feels pressure. If you've got a job without pressure, you ain't really got a job. You just go somewhere, hang out a while, and they give you some money. Everybody has pressure when you're doing something that matters. The question is, how do you handle it? We don't respond to what happens in life. We respond to what we say to ourselves about what happens in life. And that's the takeaway here. You don't respond to what happens. You respond to what you say to yourself about what happens. Now, that's good news and bad news. The bad news, it's all on you. The good news is, it's all on you. The only person you have to control is you. If you change your internal dialogue, if you change how you interpret the events in your life, not the events, but how you interpret them, you can change your reactions. Sabalenka needs to learn that. All of us need to stay focused on that. If you give yourself panic messages, if you give yourself failure messages, then you're going to panic and fail. If you give yourself coping messages, if you give yourself success messages, then you're more likely to cope and succeed. So the next time you feel pressure, just ask yourself, what am I saying to myself? How can I change my internal dialogue to cope with this situation and get through it the best way I possibly can? That will make you more efficient. That will make you more successful. Whether you're a professional athlete, a professional in medicine, business, a mom raising kids, or a kid just getting through school, dealing with tests or bullies, it's all the same. The only person you control is you, and that's good news. And that's the real story. Wherever you're getting the real story, make sure you subscribe and follow. I'll see you tomorrow. Hey, Dr. Phil here. My network, Merit TV, has it all.
Now, let me blow your mind.
Merit TV's got the news that matters.
The selection of a new pope.
Entertainment you crave.
Busted.
Everybody in a good mood today?
And live events.
Surprise.
What am I, chopped liver?
With serious punch.
Big shot.
Go to merittv.com and download the Merit TV app today.
You know, coming home and slipping into my Cozy Earth pajamas and crawling into bed with their ridiculously soft sheets has transformed my nights into the most relaxing part of my day, all because of Cozy Earth. The Cozy Earth sheets are breathable, so I sleep cooler, and the fabrics are durable. If you haven't tried Cozy Earth yet, you're missing out on what feels like a 5-star hotel at home. With a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty, you've got absolutely nothing to lose. Luxury is in reach. Visit CozyEarth.com and use my code PHIL for up to 40% off sheets, towels, pajamas, and more. If you get a post-purchase survey, tell them you heard about Cozy Earth from the Dr. Phil podcast. Sanctuary awaits at Cozy Earth.